My name is Sean Tudor. I farm down in the Yakima Valley in Grandview, Washington. I farm with my dad and uncle. We farm apples, wine grapes, juice grapes, pears. We actually do organic apples and pears. And I recently purchased my own land outside of my dad and uncle, 100 acres of wine grapes, the historic Otis Vineyards. And so I got a bunch of projects up there on my own and just learning as I go. So it's kind of nice to step outside their shadow and do my own thing there. And they kind of gave me the freedom to do whatever I want there. So, you know, early on when my grandfather passed away, you know, that put a lot of pressure on my dad and uncle to, you know, support, you know, their family of 8 kids and my grandmother. And so they got to work, you know, digging posts and planting grapes and trying to expand the farm, and they've built it to this big, you know, operation now from, you know, just a little one. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to grow up in that family farm, and, you know, it's kind of almost been pressured onto me, like, hey, you're gonna continue the family farm, you know. Even when I was little, I was like, well, I always knew I was going to do that, and my dad loved taking me out, and I've actually recently just found a couple of things I wrote in kindergarten, like, I love irrigating with my dad and funny things like that. I didn't even remember, and my mom's showing me these, and they're actually pretty cool, so I've framed them and put them in my office. But it's a blessing to be a, you know, 4th-generation family, but it's also a lot of pressure and a big deal. You know, it's you're continuing a family legacy, and I really want to do that and do the best I can, and, you know, keep the same values. It's just it's a big deal, and I'm thankful for my dad and uncle and the way they've raised me in a way farming. You know, I didn't start at the top. I started doing all the junk jobs, and I hated them. And my dad and I used to always just yell at my dad saying, you're just giving me these because you don't want me here. But, you know, he wanted me to learn. How can you teach someone to run the post hole digger if you've never ran the post hole digger? So they made me start small, and it didn't pay me much. It was a struggle for a while, but it was great. It's made me respect, you know, how can I say, I guess, I haven't wanted to just spend their money and hey, let's expand, which I want to, but, you know, I don't have as much skin in the game as them, so it's really taught me budgeting and making smart moves and smart decisions as we get bigger and, you know, the way we're going and the direction we're going. So, and we've just started the whole family succession planning, and man, that's a pain in the butt, but it's good. No, I recommend starting that a lot earlier than we are. My dad and uncle are in their 60s, so it's pretty interesting how we're gonna make it work. But in all reality, it's getting out there and doing it yourself. And like I said earlier, budget, you know, handling the budget. So with this whole Otis deal, I ran all the numbers, and I was, you know, realizing this is gonna be my money. I gotta figure out if I have a terrible year, if I'm gonna make it. If I, you know, have a really good year, where am I gonna put my capital? I don't know. You gotta run all kinds of scenarios and just guess and hope you make the right moves and the right decision. And there were some projects a few years back where Mark and Tom, my dad and uncle, were like, okay, we're ripping out this orchard. You figure out the irrigation, figure out what we're gonna plant, where we're, you know, what way we're gonna plant it, figure out how much posts are, all that stuff from ground up. And I had to run the cat to push the trees out, everything. Them giving me that opportunity to start from the beginning, you know, and do it my way. And, you know, I made mistakes along the way, and I did things wrong, but they were trying to show me, you know, you're going to, and we're gonna give you the guidance, but, you know, you need to get out there and do it yourself. And so that helped a lot, was starting with my own projects. You know, they just said, go for it, do it, you know. We're sitting on the sidelines, and that helped.